Welcome to 2026. This is the first Global Resilience Exchange and Continuity Coffee and Chat recap. So, in 2026, I'll be doing things a little bit differently. I'm opening up the platform for folks to be interviewed. So, I don't want to bombard you with a lot of videos. So, I will be combining my recap of the Continuity Coffee and Chat and the Global Resilience Exchange together. So these videos might be a little bit longer than normal, but you'll get all of the month's content and discussion topics all in one video now. Sometimes I'll show my face, sometimes I won't. Depends on what you guys like. So let me know in the comments. Do you prefer seeing someone on video or do you prefer the no face? Let me know in the comments. So for the January continuity coffee and chat, we had a great turnout. We almost spent over 20 minutes just on introductions. And we got into one topic in particular. And this was proposed by one of the participants from the UK. And he was really concerned about the fact that he was seeing his US colleagues losing their jobs and really getting caught in the workforce reduction and downsizing and just removal of positions. So we asked the question, what's going on? Why is it that companies in the US seem to not be valuing resilience professionals at this time? And this garnered a ton of discussion. I think there was over 20 hands raised. So we only talked about that one discussion. So this is my recap from that particular discussion. And so we are definitely seeing it. I'm definitely seeing it with my colleagues, a lot of open to work, but also a lot of new hires. So there just seems to be a lot of transition that's happening in our industry, specifically in America. And I did talk to some folks after this, and Canada's not seeing this. And it was pretty quiet in some of the other countries that are often represented in the chats that I host. So, one thing that we're going through, I think it's a macro issue. I think businesses everywhere are having difficulty really retaining folks. That could be because they think things are going to get tough. And so they're tightening the belt and doing workforce reductions. And that could just be they want to save money, right? They want to be able to give their shareholders more. And so we often are put in a position in terms of our resilience workforce and what we're doing is that there's not a high return on investment if you don't know what to look for. And the reason I say that is because I may not make money for the business, but I make sure that the business keeps making money. And that's the value that we bring in business continuity. For emergency managers, we're preparing for the worst and putting those mitigation strategies in and making sure that we can get through those disruptions. And technical resilience is making sure those wheels turn in the background that people don't even think about on a regular basis. So, yeah, we may not be able to sell anything to folks and process that invoice, but the business's ability to keep going, to keep operating is certainly something that we can contribute to. Another thing is, I think in general, we haven't really done a good job about marketing who we are and what we bring to the table. What I mean by that is take a look around. If you're a resilience professional, does your spouse know what you do? Can they explain it clearly? Do your parents know what you do? When they talk about you, can they accurately describe the work that you do? I think it's no for many of us. We don't do a good job of explaining what we do or the value that we bring. And another thing that I think is that often our job doesn't get the praise because if we do our job well, a lot of those disasters and disruptions don't come to fruition, right? So, yeah, there's no way that I'm going to stop a blizzard that's coming or a typhoon or a hurricane. That's not even in my job description. But for those little things, that might be around safety and security and mitigation strategies that I put in place so the big bad thing doesn't happen, a lot of people don't understand that. So when we're thinking about how we're able to show our value, it kind of goes out the door because it's just another day in paradise for us, right? We're just doing our jobs. So we don't get the praise, we don't get the accolades, we don't get to show off so people can understand what it is that we're contributing to the overall business. And that can be detrimental because if people don't think that you're contributing, what's the reason to keep you around? And so there's often a push to just be thankful and grateful in professions across the board, not even just resilience. But we do need to do a better job of advocating and showing off what we're doing. And there's always the humble brag, right? I'm not talking about, every day posting on LinkedIn or creating a YouTube channel or, making up an award for yourself, but actually doing the work that has results for your organization. You also need to make sure that you're talking to the right people and letting them know what you're doing. So those are some of my thoughts on the Continuing Coffee chat conversation. Now, for the Global Resilience Exchange, we talked about the use of AI and really the adoption of AI. And I think I've talked about this before, but what's changed recently is that I just attended Alicia Little's AI Business Summit last week. And so I have a different perspective of AI now than I did the last AI topic that we talked about. So I'm going into 2026 really thinking about even if I am not going to use AI for my profession, my business is using AI. The organization that employs me, that asks me to protect them, to make them be able to continue their operations, is using AI. So I need to take an interest in AI so that when things start to shift and move, and if there are disruptions, I can talk the talk. And so I did attend that AI Business Summit, and I thought it was awesome. It was free. It was 3 full days. It was a lot. But I was so grateful that my job supported me to be able to do that virtually. And I took away some things that I'll be using even for the Continuity Coffee and Chat and the Global Resilience Exchange. And I don't see why AI would replace people. I think it's going to make people more powerful. And so that's the side of AI that I want to be on. Now, folks in the chat talked about how they're using it for data analytics to see patterns that we just miss regularly, right? And I think that's a great way to use AI to see what we don't already see. Another thing is being in this industry, we are really aware of risk and cause and effect. And so understanding where your data is going doesn't go away with the adoption of AI. It doesn't change the fact that we still have to be prudent. It doesn't change the fact that there's still a lot of unknowns and the system is still learning. And also noting that AI is not new. Automation is not new. And so it's just really the proliferation and the accessibility to the average person that we're seeing right now. And so if it didn't take over then, it's probably not going to take over now. And listening to that summit, a lot of these folks are, yeah, they may not be hiring new folks, but they're training every single person in AI so that they produce more. And so we may be getting into a time where we think our loads are heavy now, but because people assume that we're using AI, we're going to need to produce more. And that's a heavy load for especially a lot of these teams of one, departments of one that we're already dealing with in this industry. Another topic that we talked about was the convergence of security and business continuity, how we can work together. And I did a presentation at Intersect 2025 in Dubai. Um, I was a guest speaker, and it was a really awesome presentation because it was primarily security folks. And I was trying to appeal to them why they should really collaborate strongly with business continuity and crisis management. And I think this goes across the board, especially for those larger organizations that do have different titles. So people who just handle security or just handle crisis management or just handles business continuity. There's a lot of convergence that we could collaborate on and be able to really push the mission forward of making sure that things go as smoothly as possible. The last question that we talked about, which kind of led to some other parts of the question was what terminology are you using? Is it continuity? Is it resilience? Is it risk management? And I think for everyone, it was kind of it's definitely this, but I could also see that, right? And so in your organization, it's so important that everyone is using the same terminology, right? So if it's business continuity, make sure it stays business continuity. If it's organizational resilience, make sure it stays organizational resilience. The issue is when someone from the outside comes in and is using different terminology. So as an industry, we do need to work on that, being a little bit more clear in our terminology. The lexicon is great, and I know this to be true because I am on the DRII glossary committee for this iteration, and so it is thick, right? What we're working on, and there is a lot of interpretations when there should not be, and so understanding what it's called and what resonates in your organization is super important. That question then did kind of move to where do you sit in your organization, which we've talked about in the chat before. I have sat under IT before, I've sat in emergency management. Right now, I'm with the security team under corporate real estate, under general counsel. And the truth of the matter is, what one of the participants brought up is it doesn't really matter who you report to. As long as that leader has influence, right? They have to have some understanding of what we do. Like a basic understanding is fine to know that trust you. Okay. Trust is so important. So if the HR representative is going to trust me, I will work for them. If the legal representative is going to trust me, I can work with them. If facilities or IT or operations, someone has to trust me to make the decisions that are best for this organization, and then they can go and influence procurement, HR, IT, DR, whoever it needs to be to put those things into place, to put those mitigation strategies into place. And so I thought that was a really powerful statement about sit where you have the most influence, or at least your leader has the most influence. And then there was also a conversation of, getting into this industry and how it can be difficult for entry level positions. And this came along the lines of where do you sit? So when you're doing your job search, sometimes you can search business continuity, but sometimes you have to search risk management. Sometimes you have to search crisis management. And that goes back to that terminology, right? Because different organizations do call these roles different things, your search is going to have to be a little bit greater to really find what you need and to get in where you fit in. We shouldn't be fighting the terminology, but that general education really does help us. So, these are some of the topics that we discussed this January. And the call to action is to reset your resume. So, the challenge is to update your resume this month and also make sure that your LinkedIn complements your resume, right? So whether someone finds you on LinkedIn or they see your resume, they should be seeing the same information. So let me know in the comments if you have updated your resume recently or if any of these topics resonate with you. The next continuity and coffee chat is going to be on the first Wednesday of the month, which is February. That's the next month coming up. And then the Global Resilience Exchange will be on the third Wednesday of the month. So, first Thursday of the month for the Continuity Coffee and Chat, and the for third Wednesday of the month for the Global Resilience Exchange. So thanks for taking the time to have coffee with cream with me. Play on, the continuity coffee and chat. And I'm really looking forward to 2026. There is a reading club session in the making for March already, and we have two scheduled for the second half of the year. So more activities to come, more call to actions, and I look forward to hearing from you all. Thank you for watching the Global Resilience Exchange channel. My name is Daniela, and that's my recap.